Good evening. The 129th meeting of the 71st term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. Please turn off all cell phones or put them on vibrate. Tonight's invocation will be led by our own Councilwoman, Reverend Helen Holton. After the Pledge of Allegiance, we ask that you remain standing.
Good evening, all. Let us bow our heads and open our hearts. Eternal, gracious, merciful God, Allah, Adonai, Jehovah, whomever you call upon, for sustenance and for life, the creator of all, the eternal. Loving God, thank you for this day, ending this session of this term of the City Council. Lord God, we ask that your presence be felt throughout this chambers and this building as we come to do the bidding of the people. Lord God, we ask that you keep our hearts and minds open to all things, compromise, unity, and oneness of a common bond, the city of Baltimore. I ask that you bless everyone under the sound of my voice, the city council president and all council members, our mayor, those soon to be sworn in to serve this august body, to represent the citizens of Baltimore. And it is in this that I ask that we all remember, regardless of what side of the aisle we're on, what issues, that in the end, it is you, Lord God, that reigns supreme. It is you that we are all accountable to. It is you that we will answer to in the final call. And let all hearts and minds say amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will call the roll of the members.
President Young, Kraft, Scott, Henry, Spector, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Welsh, Holton, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark, Curran. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening, we welcome Patrick Parker of the Stop I Count program.
Hello, how's everyone doing this evening? Can everyone hear me in the back? Can everyone hear me in the back? All right, my name is Patrick Parker, and I happen to be a war veteran. And the reason for me being here tonight, and I greatly appreciate you for allowing me to come, is I want everyone to stop. I want you to stop. I want you to stop and speak to your fellow American. I want you to stop and say hello. I want you to stop and engage in a conversation. And that's what my movement is all about. If you see Sergeant Push-Up might ask you to do some arm rolls. Sergeant Push-Up might ask you to do some calf extensions. Sergeant Push-Up might ask you to even play a game of jacks. He might have you do double dutch. I came down to the harbor and I did double dutch a couple of weeks ago, and I had 500 or 600 people just stop, all of different ethnicities. And that's what the Stop I Count movement is all about. It's about different ethnic groups coming together, and we're all coming together as one. I witnessed something when I served in Iraq and I was brought back to Germany. I went to a concentration camp. And when I stood in that concentration camp, and it was 50 years after that event had happened, you could still smell flesh. 50 years after that happened. And I vowed that I would continue, no matter what capacity I could, even though I was getting ready to get out the military, that I would still serve my country any way that I possibly can. So that's how Sergeant Push-Up came into existence. Because Sergeant Push-Up, he wants everyone to get fit, but if you can't work out, you can stop. You can stop and let me speak to you. What's on the back of the shirt is I count, you count, we count. We all count. So all I ask of each of you, those that have the opportunity and in a position of control and leadership, is to help me push this movement. Help me to unite this country. Join me on the Stop I Count on Instagram. Join me on the Sergeant Push-Up on Facebook. And it's all about uniting the city. And what better place to turn the country around than the great city of Baltimore, Maryland? What better place to lead example for the rest of the nation than Baltimore, Maryland? So that's what I took upon myself. And I'm asking you, my fellow countrymen, my fellow citizens, to help me bring unity, not only in Baltimore, but bring unity in the world and our country. All you have to do is stop and speak. If I see you on the street, hey, I might ask you to, as I said, play a game of jacks or double dutch or whatever it is. If it's snowing, we still can speak to one another. Sergeant Push-Up is also working with the kids in bullying. Did you know 160,000 kids hook school every day because they're afraid of bullying? 160,000 every day. It's 800,000 a week. 5,000 kids commit suicide. 500,000 attempt to commit suicide. Those numbers are ridiculous. And there's something that we can do about that. And since I've done this campaign, I've talked with people. I've had people to say, thank you for even speaking to me. I thought about committing suicide today. Thank you for just seeing that I exist. And all it takes is just a simple hello. And we're so busy with our necks down like this and texting and all that we forget our fellow countrymen. And that's all I'm here tonight to ask you to do, is to join the Sergeant Push-Up campaign. Help me, help you. Let's unite the country. The Stop I Count, let's stop. Let's engage in a conversation. Let's create walks. I happen to have a location where I do fitness classes at now. Bishop Johnson, wonderful, wonderful bishop, and he allowed me to access to use that. So I want to use that. I want to use that to bring thousands of families together, because the location is large enough to come in there and for families to join me in a Fittest Family campaign. I'm also the owner of that as well. But everything I do is all about uniting this great nation. But in order to win, in order to gather the people, you can't do it by one finger. You have to have all your fingers, and you have to have that thumb. And when you have that, you can make a mighty blow. And who better yet to lead the country than the great citizens of Baltimore, Maryland? So I ask you, and I thank you for allowing me, Patrick Parker, your decorated war veteran, to speak with you. Help me unite the nation. SGT Push-Up at Facebook. Stop I Count, you count, we count on Instagram, and let's unite the nation. I salute you. I look forward to hearing from you. Let's unite.
I want to thank you for serving the country, and thank you for your efforts to get people to start speaking to one another. That's a noble thing to do. I try to do it every day. It is the council custom to generalize the invocation act for a motion, generalize the prayer. Motion by Councilman Scott, second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of generalize the prayer say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We'll now proceed with the adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the Journal of Proceedings from November 14th City Council meeting is on the council members' desks.
Is there a motion to approve the journal? Motion by Councilman Kraft, second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of adopting the journal say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The journal is adopted. Bill signed by the mayor can be found on pages 2 to 4 of the agenda. There's no bills to be introduced. Resolution to be introduced.
City Council Resolution 16-0321R, request for state action, override veto of Clean Energy Jobs Act. Resolution for the purpose of calling on the General Assembly to override the governor's veto of the Clean Energy Jobs Act to combat climate change, create and sustain jobs where they're needed most, and start to unlock the full talent of our state's clean energy enterprises, entrepreneurs. Sponsor Curran, Clark, Kraft, Stokes, Middleton.
Please note that Councilman Costello, Council Vice President Reisinger are co-sponsors. Councilman Welch is a co-sponsor. Nick Mosby, Bill Henry, Ricky Spector, and Councilman Scott as co-sponsors. Chair recognizes Councilman Kern.
Thank you,
Say Helen.
President,
Councilwoman Holston.
Mr. President, and it's always our last issue, and this introduction would be this resolution and to support the override of the Clean Energy Job Act passed by the legislatures and vetoed by our governor. The veto of the Clean Energy Act has created uncertainty for businesses looking to invest in clean energy industry in Maryland. The creation of jobs for supporting the industry will also support our veterans, as the Maryland Veterans Caucus Legislative Committee firmly recommends strong support of the Clean Energy Act, and the full caucus voted to support the bill. Overriding this veto will send a strong message to the city of Baltimore supports the expansion of the clean energy industry in the state of Maryland. Our air quality in Maryland is a public health crisis. Over 5 million Marylanders live in counties that receive a D or F air quality grade from the American Lung Association. We have some of the worst ground level ozone pollution in the eastern U.S. An increase in clean energy will significantly improve Baltimore's air quality, leading to reduced instances of asthma and premature death. I ask you to join me in this resolution of support for the state delegation to override the governor's veto to improve the health and well-being of our citizens and to bring quality, high-paying jobs to the area of Baltimore that needs them the most. Mr. President, I thank you for allowing this resolution to go in tonight. And with that, I move to suspend the rules for allow for immediate adoption.
Second by Councilwoman Spector. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Please note Council President Young is a no. I think this is something that, if it's that important, that the legislators should try to override the veto themselves. And it does not, in my opinion, belongs in the City Council of Baltimore. Chair recognizes Councilman Kern.
Mr. President, I move 16-0321R favorably.
Second by Councilwoman Spector. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Please note Council President Young is a no. The motion carries. You can find the consent calendar in Section A at the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? All those in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carries. This calendar is approved. Second reader, Public Safety Committee.
City Council Resolution 16-0311R, Baltimore Police Department Internal Affairs Early Warning Intervention System, for the purpose of requesting the Baltimore Police Department to expand its Internal Affairs Early Warning Intervention System to include retraining officers from each district who have been flagged for intervention in the areas of use of force continuum, citizen interaction, and de-escalation techniques.
Chair recognizes Councilman Branch.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to yield the floor to the sponsor of the bill, Councilman Scott in the 2nd District.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the council, the Public Safety Committee had a hearing about the Internal Affairs Early Warning System last month. We have an early warning system in our Baltimore Police Department now, where if police officers meet a criteria for a certain amount of complaints against them, they are brought in and talk to them and their supervisor and either giving action or corrective action. What we are asking with this resolution is we want that expanded. We want officers who are meeting this criteria to be removed from patrol, sent back to the academy, and get training around whatever they need, the use of force continuum, interaction with the community, de-escalation, whatever they're having issues with, so that we don't have them getting in further trouble or incidents with the public in the future. The commissioner and his team have committed to trying to make that happen in some way, and we look forward to working with them to make it happen.
Chair recognizes Councilman Branch.
Thank you, sir. We recommend favorable.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of adopting this resolution say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This resolution is adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to refer to all bills on third reader by short title.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of a short title for the remainder of the hearing say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Short titles for the remainder of the hearing. Third reader for final passage.
City Council Bill 12-0152, transfer from Baltimore zoning. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 15-0509, Baltimore City Landmark List, Eastern Avenue Pumping Station. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 15-0510, Baltimore City Landmark List, John Rohr Elementary Middle School. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 15-0511, Baltimore City Landmark List, Patterson Park. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 15-0568, Public Ethics Law Administrative Modifications. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0652, Baltimore City Municipal Identification Cards. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0687, Valet Parking Offenses by Operators and Hosts. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
It's approved.
City Council Bill 16-0703, City Solicitor and Director of Public Works Salaries. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
Please note, Councilman Scott is a no. This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0713, Baltimore City Landmark List, Exteriors, Greater Faith Baptist Church. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0728, Discounted City Services and Equipment for Nonprofit Events. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0758, Health Hydraulic Fracturing Ban. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0759, Zoning Conditional Use Secondhand Store, 4418 Edmondson Avenue. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0761, Police Ordinances, Replica Gun Ban. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0762, Commemorative Days, Indigenous Peoples Day. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern.
Roll call.
President Young?
Yes.
President Young, yes. Councilman Kraft? Councilman Kraft, no. Councilman Scott?
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the council, while we've already voted on the most important pieces of legislation for today, this one holds a lot of symbolic reasons for where we at with our country right now. There was an election loss by the Democratic Party, and a lot to do with that had to be their refusal to acknowledge that just because things have been some certain way for a long time doesn't mean they should remain that way. And this is exactly the same thing. Mr. President, as you know, we offered compromise even in the face of being told that we don't want to compromise on this legislation. And we've heard from people, mainly people from outside of the city, saying that they don't want this legislation to pass and that we shouldn't listen to the words and the ideas of children. I would just remind those people that our city burned last year because we didn't listen to the words and ideas of children. And what we have to realize is that there's always a middle ground. And this bill as proposed today is the middle ground. And we will get to a point where, what else? What else do you want? We all have to share things. No one gets everything they want the exact way that they want it. That's not how the world operates. That's not how the world is. And there are facts. Christopher Columbus never made it to America. It's called America, not the United States of Colombia, for a reason. We know that there was another Italian gentleman who made it to America. And if this day was in his honor, we would not be having this discussion today. It doesn't matter what people outside of the city think. We know that Christopher Columbus also was involved in the creation of the slave trade. These are facts. These are not myths. These are not things that should be taken lightly, especially in a city like Baltimore that is overwhelmingly African American. And yes, this is what this comes down to. Do you want to support the majority of the citizens of Baltimore and their ideals and what they stand for, or will you continue to just operate things as is just because? That's what this vote comes down to. I vote yes.
Okay.
Councilman Scott, yes. Councilman Curran.
President, I'd like to explain my vote to the lead sponsor and to others. I've had a lot of lobbying on this issue in the last week or so, and particularly it's gotten to me from the former president of this council, former mayor of this city, made his intentions known to me. My father served with a very proud Italian-American, Thomas D'Alessandro Jr., back in the 50s, when he was a council member, and then Tommy D'Alessandro Jr. was the mayor. And I shouldn't be anguishing over this. I mean, it should not be, as it comes to our end of our term and end of our careers for 8 of us here, shouldn't have to anguish over this subject at this time. So with that being in thought, and my forgiveness to the lead sponsor, I just can't be supportive of this at this time, and hopefully the next council over the next term can take hands up. I vote no.
Councilman Curran, no. Councilman Henry.
Yeah.
Councilman Henry, yes. Councilwoman Spector.
I've been talking so much these last few days, I'm almost talked out. But we have to fight for what's right. And I fought the other day for what was right, and I'm proud of myself, and I hope and pray that because of what I did that I thought was right, nobody else got hurt. And I was honestly saved from great harm. I see no benefit from taking something away from this city that I'm so proud of. I'm proud that there is a federal government that has established a day to give credit to a wonderful, wonderful community, the Italian American community. That's who we're paying great respect to. Just last week we had Thanksgiving. We had turkey and we were grateful and we were thankful. Those were the indigenous people that we were thankful for, and that on as a federal holiday we all celebrate. Taking away from something that's important to people is not American. It's not good for Baltimore. And I would be embarrassed to take something away from people who deserve it, who earned it, and were gifted with something of great pride. I absolutely vote no to take something away from people that would not benefit anybody. Thank you. I vote no.
Going to ask for order, please. Give her the respect that she deserves when she's speaking. Thank you.
Councilwoman Spector, no. Councilwoman Middleton. Yes. Councilwoman Middleton, yes. Councilman Mosby.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Chair recognizes Councilman Mosby.
Say that again?
Chair recognizes Councilman Mosby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand today, unfortunately, after what was just said. What I will say is this council has an amazing opportunity to right 100 years of wrong. 100 years of wrong that me as a Baltimore City public school student was taught to celebrate a man who cared absolutely nothing about me, my people, nor this country. His nationality, his bloodline, his ancestors have absolutely nothing to do with the actions of this man. I stand here today not to talk about Italian Americans, not to talk about the fact that we shouldn't celebrate them and all the great things that they have done in this country, more specifically in the city of Baltimore, but to talk about a man that we hold honor to in the faces of folks that he did nothing but destroy generations of their lives. That is the reality. That is the reality every time we utter the words Christopher Columbus out of our mouths. If you don't know, please pick up a book and read. His history is a ugly history. It's not the history of this country. It's not the history of Italian Americans, and we should stop celebrating it. So I support wholeheartedly with the sponsor of this bill, and I say yes.
Councilman Mosby, yes. Councilwoman Holton.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Holton.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, when I think about Baltimore City and the majority of citizens in this city
Get them plaques up here.
who in one respect or another are indigenous people, when I think about Christopher Columbus, a holiday I don't celebrate as a day to celebrate the accomplishments of an individual. But I do know in Baltimore City that Italian Americans have had a great deal to do with the shaping and building of Baltimore City, and certainly deserve to be recognized for that contribution. I find it interesting that this body is challenged over whether we change the name from Christopher Columbus to Italian Americans Day, and whether we open it up to be inclusive and recognize other citizens of our city who have made great strides to building our city, who happen to be indigenous people. So when I look in the mirror every day at who I am as America, I'm a representative of that class of people known as indigenous in America. African Americans are the only people who came to America not by choice, but by force. For hundreds of years, we have been suppressed, discriminated, done everything, and yet we are still here contributing to America. Here we are splitting hairs over an issue of one day that happens to be a national holiday celebrated the second Monday of October, where government employees are given a day off for which they are paid for. In a city after last year that showed us we are not one Baltimore. And in many respects, this is a measure that says, we're going to share this and open it up and celebrate more than just Italian Americans. And if anyone looks at the agenda, the original bill was introduced as Commemorative Days, Indigenous Peoples Day. But for those of us who have blue copies on our desk for the third reader for final passage, it is amended to read Indigenous Peoples and Italian Americans Day. So this is less to me about what the federal holiday is referred to, but how we in Baltimore City choose to acknowledge this federal holiday in this city, one blip on the American map, that I think is a unifying opportunity for more people to be celebrated and recognized, if it's to be a day of recognition in Baltimore City. And for that reason, and there are many reasons that I could support saying it's not time to move forward with this. We need a process that's going to open it up and invite more voices of Baltimore City residents to speak about this issue. But here we are on the last day of this term of this city council. So we don't have any more time. But it is my hope, as in my time in this body, I've seen many bills that were passed come back and be refined and be reworked to be better than how they initially became law. And it is my hope, and I'm speaking to those who will be sworn in as the next city council in just a couple of days, to really look at this issue and address the divisiveness that it's creating and make it more of a unifying opportunity for us to celebrate Baltimore as one city. And for that reason, I vote yes.
Councilman Holton, yes. Councilman Welsh. Councilman Welsh, pass. Councilman Reisinger. Councilman Reisinger, no. Councilman Costello.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Mr. President, I think this is a federal issue, not a local issue. To my colleagues' comments about the lies that you were taught about Columbus growing up, I learned those same lies. That's a federal and a state issue to get that corrected in curriculums. I don't think that's an issue for the Baltimore City Council to handle. And lastly, I think this says to the Italian American community that you're not important enough to have your own day. For those reasons, I'm voting no.
Councilman Costello, no. Councilman Stokes.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have participated in several Columbus Day celebrations, but not to celebrate Columbus. I don't celebrate Columbus. I did it for my friends and my neighbors, for the Italian American community who are deserving. I know that Councilman Brandon Scott, you look a lot, no. I know that Councilman Scott did not do this to denigrate in any way the Italian American community. I know that the Columbus Day holiday was not for the Italian American community, but because he was a Catholic. I'm a Catholic. We picked the wrong Catholic. I'm not Italian American, but we still picked the wrong Italian. He's not deserving, although that's not what the bill is about. It is about celebrating the folk who have been long kicked aside, killed, diseased, raped, and thrown down. And as I said last week, 600 years is enough to finally honor those citizens. It's not against the Italian American community, a great community. By the way, a little earlier, I got a note saying that African Americans have African American Month, have Martin Luther King's birthday. No, we don't. See, Martin Luther King's birthday is not a black day. It is an American holiday. And if folk don't understand, then that's why we had what we had a year ago. It's time to stop that sort of nonsense. I agree with my colleague, we should do what we can. I vote very strongly yes.
Councilman Stokes, yes. Councilman Branch.
Chair recognizes Councilman Branch.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think my colleague from the second is on to something, but I'm voting no, because if you're going to commemorate this day, then set a day aside, let the communities and the groups come together and decide what day it's going to be. I don't think you should take one away from the other in order to support the other. We're supposed to be looking forward. We can't look back to what happened years ago. If that's the case, then I think we're all lost. I think we're all lost. That's the reason why we come here. That's the reason why we're fighting for our constituents to do whatever we can. I would have, and I said shared with him, I would support him if he was trying to put together a date and want to sit down. I'm all for it. But I have to say no on this one. Thank you.
Councilman Branch, no. Councilwoman Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I have consistently abstained on this issue, and I intend to do the same this evening. I'd like to explain my vote. I'm not much of an abstainer, but the reason I have is that, first of all, I have a lot of education to learn and I'm trying to learn it as fast as I can on both sides of this issue, and I am behind the issue on both sides. And I'm learning a lot about the whole indigenous people's identity and movement, the geography, the importance, the significance, and I very much favor the notion and favor the idea of dedicating a day in the lives of this nation and of Canada and of South America, Central America, all of which are encompassed in this recognition. On the other side, everyone knows I'm one of the elders of the City Council. What?
The new dean.
One of the elders of the council. So I'm old enough to remember that first generation of Italians who moved to at least where I was born, which is Providence, Rhode Island. And since I'm Irish, it was a neighborhood where the next generation also moved in.
There's no committee
And
announcement.
I watched the struggle to be recognized, the struggle because there was a language difficulty that we had never suffered. And that I understand that Columbus became a rallying point by my neighbors, by Italian Americans, so it gave a chance to come together, to have parades, to have celebrations, festivals that sort of help them to reach out and be part of the general community that was surrounding them, of which I was a member. So I think of Columbus Day. I had never really thought much about Christopher Columbus, but about the neighbors I knew, the kids I grew up with, their parents who had really just come over, and how we all learned to get together and live together, but the struggle that I saw. So I have abstained because both sides are very, very important, I believe, to us. And I know, for one, I need much more education, especially on the significance of what we're doing and of why one thing has to replace another, which I would hope would not be so. Thank you. I abstain.
Councilwoman Clark abstained. We have 7 yes, 6 no, 2 abstain.
Okay, this bill fails.
City Council Bill 16-0763, Retail Business Districts, Semi-Annual Fee Collection. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved. There are no committee announcement. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft. You got a committee announcement?
It's for the Central Committee
I'm
for the
just joking.
vacancy. We're going to have a hearing tonight.
I thought you fooled me.
Mr. President, we're going to have a hearing tonight. Mr. President, I'd like to make an announcement on behalf of the Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee. The Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee is presently accepting resumes.
Please give us some order. Please, some order, please. Order, please. Order, 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 order. Where's the police at? We're going to recess. We'll recess for 5 minutes. Where's the police? No, I want them to get them out here now. I'm not recessing. We'll get them out here. I want the chambers cleared upstairs. Thank you. Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee is presently accepting resumes to fill the position of delegate for the 46th Legislative District with the resignation of Delegate Peter A. Hammond from the Maryland State House of Delegates effective today, Monday, December 5th, 2016. To apply, one must be a registered Democratic voter in the state of Maryland, must have resided in the 46th Legislative District for at least 1 year, and be 21 years of age or older.
Hold it, Councilman.
Okay.
Till we get some order upstairs. Let's have order, or you're going to be asked to leave. I'm talking to everybody up there. Where's the rest of the police at? They're on their way. All right, get them upstairs. Nobody's going to disrupt this meeting. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. Resumes for consideration must be received no later than the end of business Monday, December 19th, 2016. All resumes must be sent to Baltimore Bob Murray, right here to my left, 46th District Chair, Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee, Post Office Box 23762, Baltimore, Maryland 21203-5762. Interviews for this position will be held on Wednesday, December 21st, 2016, at the Southeast Anchor Branch Library, located at 3601 Eastern Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland 21224, in the heart of Highlandtown, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Applicants will be notified of their specific interview times. The 7 elected voting members of the 46th District State Central Committee will vote publicly after all interviews have concluded to fill the vacancy. If you have any questions, please contact Bob Murray at 443-286-3192 or email bobmurrayedd@gmail.com. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I will have a few remarks, and then the floor can be opened up to any council members. I want to start with you, Councilman Kraft. I want to thank you for your years of service. You made me a green person, even though I'm not green, with your green bills, creating the Sustainability Committee, and you were just a champion as my judiciary chair. I can always count on you to have thorough and great meetings, and you knew how to work the compromise. So I want to thank you for that, and we're going to miss you. I'm not going to be long because with Councilman Kraft, I can go on and on and on. Councilman Kern, we want to thank you and for carrying on the legacy of the Kern family, all of the support that you gave the administration. That's a little side joke. But Bobby was a real champion. If Bobby told you he was with you, you can always count on that. He will not go back on his vote. Bobby served on the towing commission, did a very good job with the towers. When we had issues around that, I would call Bobby and say, Bobby, look into this. Bobby also was a great advocate for Barks. And I don't care what budget that we had, if there wasn't money in there for Barks, Bobby had a problem. Plus, Bobby made sure that when transportation came to any of our hearings, all he would talk about is his district and why they're not doing the roads and stuff up in his district. But Bobby, I want to thank you for your years of service as well, and for carrying the legacy of the Kern family. Thank you. Councilwoman Rochelle Ricky Spector. What can you say about Ricky, the dean of the council? Ricky, I just want to thank you for all of the hard work, especially for MACO and all of the national organizations that you were a part of. You always came back and shared that with my staff, and the bills that were important to the city of Baltimore, you were on top of them. I want to thank you for that. Being 40 years, almost 40 years on this council, you had a wealth of experience, and we're hoping that as you retire, that you will stay in contact with us. Let us know when we're doing good, and let us know when we're doing bad. But I just want to thank you for your service to the citizens of Baltimore, and particularly the 5th District. Ricky had a diverse district like we all do, but Ricky had a large Jewish population, and she was able to balance that with the whole district. Because when you go to the African-American part of the district, they always had great things to say about Ricky. And when you went to the Jewish community, she was their star. So Ricky, want to thank you for, all of your hard work. My good friend, Nick Mosby. Nick came into council fired up. Nick, I remember when you put in the liquor ordinance. Remember where the kids couldn't go and buy stuff during school hours and all that? That was a major piece of legislation that you did. And then you went on and fought hard to give safe streets over in your district. I mean, that's a big accomplishment. I don't think every district have a safe street, but you were able to do that. And then, what really got me was when I found out you had your own magazine. I was like, wow, look at that. So you had the 7th District magazine. And also, Nick Mosby he was one of the first council people, I think, that had the rallies to stop the shootings and murders in the district. You thought I forgot all that, right? So, I want to thank you for that. And then, when they wanted to put I think it was a drive-through restaurant, Nick said, no, I don't want a drive-through restaurant. I want a sit-down restaurant. And you were able to deliver that sit-down restaurant. So I want to thank you for your hard work on behalf of the 7th District, and good luck to you in the future. Who am I missing? Councilwoman Helen Holton, the champion of MBEs, the minority and small businesses. Helen just worked tirelessly to make sure that minorities and MBEs were treated fairly and getting contracts and those kind of things. And she also took care of district. People oftentimes would call me and say, well, Helen already took care of that. And I said, huh? Excuse me? Because Vonda was working for you at the time. And Helen, even the bills you put in made a difference in the lives of a lot of people. You were very unique in looking at the taxes. Remember we was doing the pensions and all that, and you had that eye for that. Helen is an accountant by trade. So when it comes to the money and all that stuff, Helen was keen on that. And, I can go on and on about some of the things that you have done, but the ones that stick out the most is your tenacity to make sure that minorities and MBEs are treated fairly. So you will go down in history as the MBE-WEE champion on this council. And I know that we're going to have other council members of the new ones coming in that will pick up that mantle. I know I won't let it go. I will be making sure that we look out for the women-owned businesses and minorities to make sure they get their fair share, because they're the ones that actually hire local. So I want to thank you for that. Carl Stokes, my councilman. Carl Stokes was the chair of taxation and finance, and most people don't know, but Carl support development in a big way. It's just that Carl he felt that we was giving a little bit too much and not getting a lot back. So Carl, when we had the University of Maryland project, said, that's it. We're going to get some money for the community. And to his credit, we was able to get that money for that community over in West Baltimore, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for just being Carl. There's a lot of legislation that could have been held up, but you made sure that you shepherded through. Whether you agree with it or not, you did your job to shepherd most of the legislation that was important to this city. You got it through. Your advocacy on behalf of children and starting the Blueford School, East and West, need to be commended. And now you're over in I think it's in Henry's district, Northeast District, with the Banneker Blake. That shows your commitment that you want children to be able to get a sound and quality education. So I want to thank you for your great service to the city of Baltimore, and thank you for being my councilman. To Warren Branch, my colleague, Warren Branch, long before he was a council person, made sure that everything that I wanted done was taken care of when he was working over in Public Works. Branch introduced the body camera legislation that equipped police officers in Baltimore City. That's a major, major piece of legislation. He chaired the Public Safety Committee, and he did a great job making sure that those bills was heard in a timely manner. And despite him being sick, a lot of people didn't know that even though he was sick, he did his best to come in here to chair those hearings, because he really didn't share his sickness, and he did a lot of work that people finding out now. If it wasn't for Councilman Branch, half of that development that took place up on St. Clair Lane, half of EBDI on his side of the district that's still being worked on. He did some major work. And I know once Councilwoman Sneed got the list of all the work that was done in the 13th district, I know she realized now that you did a great job of advocating for that district. And even I'm the cancer center at Hopkins, I had to persuade him. It was tough, because he said, if I can't get the jobs for the people who live in my district, I can't support this. And he made sure that the constituents in his district got those jobs. So Councilman Branch, I want to thank you for the years of service that you gave and for being a good friend of mine on this council. Councilman Pete Welch. Councilman Pete Welch, he was just super. He took care of his district. A lot of people used to criticize and say, we don't see Pete, because Pete was hard at work trying to make sure that the site, is that La Cité, that development, get done over there in West Baltimore. And I know that he was very concerned about the Acme property that he was trying to get a developer to look into and see if they could do something with that big monster over there. And Pete, we're going to look out for that and try to get some development over there, working with the new councilman of that district. And I think we will be able to, because the mayor-elect promised that we're going to look after those communities that haven't seen no investments. And one thing I can say about Pete, I think you have more resolutions than anybody in this council. And Pete, and the thing that I like about Pete, I used to hear Pete, and I used to just die laughing. He would read the resolution and say, by me, Councilman Pete Welch. I used to love to hear that. But Pete, we want to thank you for, even before he was a council person, working for his mother, Agnes Welch, getting things done. And Pete was a great advocate for seniors as well. I wasn't the only one that was looking out for seniors. Pete was one of the ones that took the interest of the seniors because that's what his mother did. So Pete, thank you for a great job. Did I get everybody? Okay. So the floor is open for anybody who wants to make any comments. If not, I'm going to chair recognize Councilwoman Spector. You want to take a last shot at me?
Jack, you're just like the brother I never had.
You didn't want him, right?
And we really do appreciate each other, because I know you did the best job you could have ever tried to do. You always did have the city in your heart, and you did the best job that you could do, and I really do appreciate that. We didn't always agree, but I always trusted that you were doing it from your heart. And I want to thank you very much, because it's just divine intervention that when you asked me to stay on for you and represent the City Council at the Legislative Committee, I've been doing it for nearly 40 years, and it was like second nature to me, and I knew that I would be able to serve you well, but I never realized that it was really divine intervention. We will need the state legislature to help us fix this problem with the juveniles that are not in just Baltimore, it's statewide. But our solution, our improvement can't come, we can't solve it in Baltimore City. It has to be on a state level. And that incident that happened to me was really a message that you knew what you were doing. I always did think you knew what you were doing. I just didn't agree with you verbally. But I will stay on and work with the police commissioners of the state, the legislatures of the state, and my cohorts all over the state. We will assess the juvenile justice laws, find out what's wrong, help fix and save these kids and save us from the damage that we are experiencing. So thank you, Jack. The last thing you did to help me was for us to help all of us fixing this juvenile justice system. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Kern.
Well, Mr. President, my colleagues, I'm going to take a few minutes, if you don't mind, to quote a song by Frank Sinatra, "Now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain."
That's Nick's song.
Is that Nick's song? I
Yeah.
know we're here tonight.
Nick came to sing it for you. Nick came to sing it for you.
Mr. President, my colleagues, it's been a good run for 21 years, and before that, my brother Mike for 19 years, before that, my dad for about 19 years. But it's all about family in politics, Mr. President. As you know, as in life, it's about family, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my wife, Janice, who couldn't be here tonight. She was supposed to have her hip replaced today. It's going to happen Thursday, so I won't be able to join you for the inauguration of the new council, but she has some mobility issues, and I'm grateful for the 30 years I've had with her and enduring what we have to go through, because folks really don't know sometimes what a council person goes through in the evenings and all. So it's all about family. I had a great learning process with my dad, Joe Kern Sr. I saw him take constituent calls at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night when I was a very young man. I remember there were pickets in front of our house when he was in favor of the open bar bill back in the 60s. We had pickets. And you learned how to manage your career with the way you look back on those things. And my brother Mike, the constituency work that he did for the 3rd District was unheard of. I remember seeing him on a snowplow. He would commandeer the snowplow and then come do the streets, not just his family streets, but all the hot spots in the 3rd District. So I learned constituent work from my brother Mike. Sis, school sisters Notre Dame. Well, I had a good education when the SSND, but I love my sister. She was a very integral part of my family. And last but not least, my oldest brother Joe, who is joining us here tonight. I couldn't have been able to win these elections without folks think they were voting for Joe Kern, but they weren't. But he was a great mentor to me, especially these last couple elections in 07 and 11, when Mike and Dad and Sis and all gone. And he was a great help, inspirational to me, and learned how to be a true statesman from my brother Joe. And then I have to move on. I have no children, so I have to say that my nieces and nephews, Max, who is here tonight with his father, Katie, Mary Carol, Alice Ann, Ginny, Little Mike, and Michelle. They helped me immensely over the years, try to get through. With no children and grandchildren, you got to depend on your nieces and nephews. But I just want to give a shout out to some of the folks I've worked with over the years. I know all of us have memories of people in city government, but I want to mention those that have left the world that have been very integral to me. Bill Beatty, Eugene Skid Daly, Director George Winfield, and then a couple officers from the Northeastern District, Lieutenant Owen Sweeney, Sergeant Robert Platt, who lost their lives during their duties, and the firefighter Eric Schaefer. My second family is a family we all have working for us down here. And I'm first going to start off with Kathy Keenan. I don't think she could be here tonight, but Bob Rain, Chris Maldani over the years that have served me. And you got Ginny Stewart, Julie Davitt, Ashley and Amanda Chong, Vince Jackin, Suzanne and Peggy Vetter, If you're only as good as the people that work for you. You know that, Mr. President. Your staff is wonderful. That makes you look so good, and that's good for us. So my staff over the years, I just want to give a shout out to the folks in city agencies that have helped me immensely. Kathy Stump, Marsha Collins is here tonight, Don Flannery, Michael Braverman, Eric Booker, David Tanner, Captain Roman Clark. Where would I be with fire department issues without Captain Roman Clark? Then I have in the police department, obviously the current commissioner, but Darrell D'Souza, who was a major Northeast and was very important to me. Frank Murphy, transportation. Valia Cuomo from Solid Waste, and Denise that works for her. Over these last years, 21 years, the first 2 or 3 years, I was going to community organization meetings 3 or 4 times a week. Not so much as the last couple of years, Mr. President. It just didn't have the energy or the issues, health issues that retarded me from being as attentive to my communities I'd been the first years. But I want to thank also the folks, Larry Green, DePaul Nibber, Richard Crumrick, Jennifer Coates, Marshall Bell. I didn't have so much to work with Marshall. Avery Eisenstark, Thaddeus, Nancy Ray, I can't forget you, all the zoning issues we've been through. And I also like to say, shout out to our news reporters that cover us, Luke Broadwater, Yvonne, John Fritzy over the years, been good to me. And I'm not going to go on that because it's all about the people. It's not about the issues that we fight for here, it's about people. Our citizens, about the people that help us get here, elect us, people that help us stay in office. So I just want to mention all of them. It's been a great run for this councilman, my brother Mike, and my dad over the years. So it's going to be, I can't be there for Thursday, but I'll come back and visit the current room on occasions. And I want to thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Well, it's hard to follow up on that, Bobby. I'm crying. Mr. President, I want to thank you for recognizing me this final time. I really appreciate it, and you know how much I appreciate your leadership and your friendship over all these years. And to have served on this council with you and all of these colleagues, with Belinda Conaway, Kenny Harris, Paula Johnson Branch, see my friend Nick Diadamo over here, Agnes Welsh. I saw Agnes here a little while ago. Agnes and Billy Cole, Kiefer Mitchell. I saw Kiefer in the back there. And Sheila Dixon and Stephanie, all who were on the council here as we went through. It's been one
and Mayor Pugh.
And she wasn't on when I was here.
Okay. She was on while I was here.
But you know, but I'll take credit for her. Yeah. But it's truly been one of the great honors of my life, and the memory of these 12 years, the ups and downs, the agreements and disagreements, the victories, the defeats, they'll all be long remembered. As we all know, despite the public perception, this is not an easy job. I mean, you know, we work like hell, and people don't think we do anything. But you know, it is. You know, it's a 36-hour job that we got to try to do in 24 hours, and we got to try to work everything else into it. And we all know that we can't do it by ourselves. And you know, when we look around this room, we look at all the people here, and Bobby just named so many people. And I was going to say a minute ago in my written remarks, I said, you know, you never want to point people out, because once you start singling them out, then you start figuring out all the people that you should have singled out and you didn't. So I'm gonna leave all the people that Bobby singled out, and I'm gonna say I single all of you out also, so that I don't do that. But there are some people that I do want to particularly mention, and those are people that worked very closely with me and my staff, and one of them is Kara, who worked so closely with us during Transform over the last 100 years, and Marguerite Murray, who's been with me in the Judiciary Committee, who's just been excellent, and we've been able to count there, and Richard, who started with us in the Judiciary Committee before that, Marshall, who's been with us in land use. You have been just tremendous. Some of our people there, I mean, Marcia Collins, I think, has been with us from the very beginning with DPW. And Marcia, I can't tell you how much I have learned from you, not just substance-wise, but just in terms of how to deal with people. You have been a great mentor to me, and I want you to know how much I value that. Angela Gibson. Angela, for those of you who have never been to one of my hearings, I have had so much fun at Angela's expense. So often she wears pink or red, and I always begin the hearing or I actually get to that point, and I say, and representing the mayor of the city of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, the lovely Miss Angela Gibson, dressed in pink today, and she's such a good sport. And Andy Smulyan, Andy and I, we've gone back and forth, we've gone up and down, but I have to say to you, in all of our dealings, whenever you have said, you know, we're going to do this, you have. And when you've said you weren't going to do it, you haven't. and that's good, because at least we've always known where we've been on these, and I truly appreciate that. Mr. President, I want to say particular thanks to my team. My political team, I have my chairman here, George Matthews, who's been with me from the very beginning, Dave Mossberg, who's not with us, Bob Murray, who's been the chairman of our Central Committee all along, and then my folks, my chief of staff, Billy Wong, who couldn't be with us. He's now working in California, although he is helping to manage the transportation plan for Sagamore coming back, and Aaron Fiaschetti, Kristen Oldendorf, who DPW stole away from me, another one of Marcia Collins' coups, and Emily Sherman, who has been just super and really has held me together here for the last year or so. It's been a tough year. Gene Pula, who was here with Nick and John Kane and all of them, who came in and taught me just how government worked here. Jen Pierkowski, Maya Garza, Mega Gorman, Kaylin McGough, who went to work with you, Mr. President. Kate Golden, Laritza Mendoza, Jason Johnson, Katie Miller, Sarah Brandon, and Jeff Amorose, one more of my people who got stolen away by Dr. Wen, you know, wherever she is, but, you know, she'll pay back for that one day. So anyway, and the people of Southeast Baltimore, Mr. President, they've allowed me to serve them for these last 12 years, and they're a tough crowd, and I see Zeke Cohen over there. And Zeke, you know, I'm so enthusiastic for you and about you. I think you are going to be a great councilman, and I don't feel that I could leave this position in any better hands than yours. When I say they're a tough crowd, you know, when you start in Little Italy, you saw how many Little Italy folks are still here. Yeah, there they are. You go from Little Italy, and you know, and you go over to Baltimore Highlands, and you go from Upper Fells Point, you go down to St. Helena, and you deal with those people, and you know why they're called the Fighting First. You know, you learn very, very quickly. You know, we've weathered a lot, but we still managed to hold on to the historic fabric, which makes Southeast Baltimore unique. And we have all these challenges: growth and traffic and growth and traffic. Parking and parking and parking, but we know they'll be met. But this is one thing that I want to emphasize as I wrap up. When others fled the city during the 60s and 70s and all, the people of Southeast did not. They stayed there, and they were the bedrock in many areas where you know, and they helped rebuild this city. And when you look across Southeast Baltimore and you see the new Baltimore that is being built, it goes all across Southeast Baltimore. And the success of Southeast Baltimore is helping build the success of the city, because the revenues and the taxes that are being generated there are helping us do projects all around the rest of the city. So, keep building in Southeast Baltimore, keep generating that money, keep putting that money down there because the rest of the city needs it. And Zeke, remember that. In closing, Mr. President, I want to say final thanks once again to you for your leadership, for your friendship, for our relationship. I can't tell you how much it means. And for the patience, love, and generosity of my wife, Tammy. I know she's listening. She's not here tonight. She works in Annapolis, as you know, and I know she was getting back late, but you can't do this without your spouse. And as all of you know who have a partner, whatever, if they're not with you, you just can't do this. And she has been just so gracious for all of these years. So on behalf of her, on behalf of me, as my former delegate Cornell Dipsky used to say, I thank you from the southeast corner of my heart. It is forever yours.
Chair recognizes Councilman Mosby.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me. I stand here today very, very, very thankful. And I say that with not any ounce of emotions or feeling through my body, but I am truly thankful. I'm thankful for several reasons. Thankful for being bestowed with an amazing mother who knew this little boy who she sat on her lap, who told her this dream of working in this white building downtown. She told him every single day, you can be and do whatever you wanted to do. Many folks don't know this, but my mother died the year before I was elected to the city council. And she never got a chance to see me live out that dream she told me I could live. However, I knew when I was elected, because people told me not to run, the reason I ran was because of that whisper in my ear. And I stand here today because the reason that I was in the middle of all these fights with legislation, even though we were always able not to take it personal, however, we were always fighting back and forth, and somehow I would always create this legislation that folks disagreed with vehemently on this council and throughout the city. But I would always hear that whisper in the back of my head about what was doing right. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for my mother. I'm thankful for my family, and Councilman Kraft, you're so right. Without a supportive family, you cannot do this job. And it extends beyond my beautiful wife, my wonderful supporting wife. It extends to my beautiful girls, Nylin and Naya, who are acting embarrassed now. They've been to so many city council and community meetings. I tell folks all the time, they probably know more city council rules than some of my colleagues. To my beautiful sister, who you guys have heard about us sharing a bedroom with my mother till I was 14 years old and Nikki was 19 or 20, but we slept in that small bedroom every single day, knowing that what our mother told us was going to provide us for what we have today. So I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for you for what you do for my girls when Marilyn and I are busy. I'm thankful for my extended family and my nieces and your husband and Damon. I'm thankful. I'm thankful to the citizens of Baltimore for providing me with this opportunity. You guys have heard me say it over and over again, but many young folks who come from a similar path don't necessarily have the opportunities that I've had. And when I look in the mirror, I know it has absolutely nothing to do with me, but all that was poured into me. And the gratifying experience on this council is that collectively of 15, we have the ability of pouring that in more and more of Baltimore City students and children. And that's our job, and that's what we must continue to do. So I thank the citizens of Baltimore for providing me with this opportunity. An opportunity that at some points I thought wasn't a chance or possible. I can remember being elected and walking into City Hall pinching myself like I'm a city councilman. I can remember doing that for a year and a half. I can remember doing that for one of the first bills I passed, Mary Pat. And you looked at me and you said, Nick, if people aren't fighting against you, you're doing something wrong. And I knew I was doing something right. So again, to the citizens of Baltimore, I say thank you. To my colleagues, I say thank you, because I learned so much from each and every one of you. Whether that was through doing the judiciary hearing, Councilman Kraft, and you helping me out with banning the box and things like that. Folks don't know that. I just told that secret. Or Councilman Stokes, even though when you were standing in the court alone, you continued to fight. Or to Brandon Scott, Bill Henry, Karen, Ricky Rochelle Spector, what can I say? Ricky. You call yourself my Jewish mother. That's what you called me when I first came on this council. I thank you for your leadership. I thank you for your support. To my seatmate, Councilman Middleton, I say thank you. To the Vice President, Reisinger, I say thank you. To Pete, to Branch, to Helen. You've been my mother on this council. To Eric, my new brother. You've been here for 2 years. I say thank you to each and every one of you, because the one thing I'll take away from this is, even though we disagreed a lot, we never took it personal. We were always able to hug and shake hands and walk away from whatever difference that we had on the table, whether it was public or private, and move on with the business of the city of Baltimore. And I take that to heart, and I thank you for that. And then lastly, to the, and I'm a little biased, the greatest city council staff in the history of American cities. Fortunately, I was blessed with that council staff. But to Candace Green, I can't say in words what you've meant to me. The council president talked about earlier about the 7th District magazine. It was Candace's 7th District magazine. Candace wrote all the pieces. Candace ensured that we got all the pictures and people were interviewed. But she's done so much more than that. Whether it was the backpack giveaways, where we're giving away thousands upon thousands of backpacks every single year. Whether it was Corey Ramos and our zoo trip, where we took West Baltimore students who live right by the Maryland Zoo in Baltimore and never gone. We took them every single year, over 1,200 children last year. Or whether it's Crystal York or Shalik Fulton. But again, I've been blessed with an amazing, amazing staff. Again, to all the folks that I just named and all the folks that Karen and Kraft named, I say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Know every single second that I've had this opportunity, that I've stepped in this position, that I have never, ever taken it for granted. And I've been truly, truly grateful for this opportunity. So to the next council, I say continue on the fight. There's a lot of work to be done. Continue to chip away at a better Baltimore. Thank you. One last thing, I'm sorry. For the guy in this room whose heart is as big as the entire city of Baltimore, that's to my president, President Bernard C. Jack Young. I'll never forget, you came up to me, Nick, and you said, you know what, Nick? You're the only one that always called me Mr. President. Because I looked at you out of respect. Out of respect of caring about the city in the way that you know how to care for it. And I say your heart is as big as the city of Baltimore because, Mr. President, you know we've had our disagreements. You know from a legislative perspective, we have been on completely opposite sides. But I knew where you were coming from every single time was a place of true character, a place of doing the right thing, and a place, more importantly, of providing the next generation a better opportunity than I had it, and I stood on your shoulders than what you had. So I say thank you, Mr. President, for what you've done, what you will continue to do. And again, to the council members that will continue to move on, to the new council members, I say continue to push, continue to chip away at a better, better Baltimore. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Holton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank my colleagues who spoke before me for naming all the names that I don't have to worry about remembering because I echo those sentiments. But I stand here at the final call as a member of the Baltimore City Council, and I am honored, humbled, grateful, and blessed to have garnered the confidence and support of the citizens of the 5th District and the 8th District to serve in this august body. I'm joined this evening by my #1 cheerleader on all the earth, and that is my mother, Mrs. Barbara Cuffey. and my stepmother, Ms. Yvonne Holton. And I know that I'm here as part of God's purpose for my life. And I have sought to serve, always remembering those less fortunate, and finding a way for balance and compromise, for equity and fairness. I've had good days, I've had not so good days. But every day I wake up with the responsibility to serve this city, to help it to be one of the greatest cities in America. I've never taken that for granted. I'm so excited about the one who will follow behind me as the representative of the 8th District. And I'm excited for his passion for the people, which has meant so much to me. And for my colleagues, as I was cleaning out my office, that's not complete yet, but it will be, I realized this is the single longest endeavor I have undertaken short of breathing air. And if someone had told me before this journey began that I'd be here for 21 years, I certainly would have assured them they had me confused with someone else. But here I stand, thankful and grateful to all of my colleagues. And I know this is a job I could not have done without the support of legislative reference. And I have to, over the years, that is a foundation for council people. You all help us to do what we do on behalf of the citizens of Baltimore. And I thank each and every one of you. Council President, many have said, but you truly embody the heart of Baltimore in that you love the citizens. And even when we disagree, I know where your heart is. And so I walk away with more memories than boxes can hold, and I've got a lot of boxes holding lots of memories. And as I was going through the papers and the people I've served with, those that are not here, those that are no longer living, I'm reminded of the privilege and the honor it is to serve in the capacity of a council person. And whether it's been in Baltimore City or somewhere else in the country or in the world, I always talk about Baltimore. And I want people to know that the Baltimore I know and love is very different than what the media chooses to portray our city as. We have challenges, there's no city that doesn't. But I know that there are a lot of people in this city that love this city, that would give their eye teeth for this city to see it be all that it can be. And so I'm excited about the new council taking office to do what seems like, oh yeah, I can do that. That have ideas of, oh yeah, I'm gonna make that happen in a couple months. But you learn that it's a much longer journey. Even in the day and age of social media, it still doesn't happen that fast in the city council. And that's a good thing. It teaches us what it means to be a team. Our strength is in our numbers. And when I came to the city council, the magic number was 10. Now it's 8. And the most important thing that I leave from here is that it's never been about me. It's been about Baltimore and how we represent our city and the citizens of this city. And so I know from the voices of others that I've done a good work. Which is a good thing to know. And yet I know there's more work to do. And though I won't sit in these chambers, I certainly will continue to do a good work for the city of Baltimore. I love you all. I thank you all for being who you've been in my life. Whether we agreed or disagreed, what I appreciate most is that we've done it without being really disagreeable. Because you all are family to me. Just like family members I have, you know. There are those days that we love each other, we don't like each other, but we know we're in it together. And so I thank you all, I love you all, and I wish only the best, because as I know, our best is still yet to come. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Citizens and colleagues, I thank you for allowing me to serve in this body for a second time. Mr. President, I know that I've always thought you and I were very close friends. And then you gave me a call and said you wanted me to come back to City Hall, and that was the end of a beautiful friendship. I tease. My mother asked about you yesterday. Our parents grew up across the street from each other, around the corner from each other, and have known each other from way back. I see my friend, Joan Pratt, who I think has envelopes with maybe rebate checks, I'm not sure. Joan and Jack and I grew up 3 blocks from one another. And I still, wait a minute. And I still.
Carl was in the 12th grade, I was in the kindergarten.
See, there he goes. There he goes. That's what happened to our friendship. And I was going to say that I still have these vivid memories of Jack taking Joan in my hand and crossing the street with us, leading us to school. And I remember coming home, and my mom, and I think Joan's mom, would ask what happened to the candy that we had that morning. And we said, Jack took it. And I'm not kidding about that. But no. I want to mention that, Mr. President and Madam President, I had the distinct privilege and honor to serve with 2 of the greatest Baltimore City Council presidents in the history of the city. And I'm not just biting, as we would say on the street, because I did, you know, the new guys, God bless you, are coming on and they're using the word progressive. I didn't see more progressive people than Mary Pat and Bernard C. Jack Young. I mean that. You know, I had a little wager that Bobby Karen would give the longest goodbye speech. You gave the shortest thus far. I'm almost finished. I want to thank the citizens and my colleagues here. I love most of you. I'm still Carl. I also want to thank Shannon, Robert, David, the even better staff. You guys are just great. My heart. I love you so much. I do mean that. And the councilmatic staff, the president's staff, councilmatic services, the mayor, the agency staff, all of you. Great, thank you for being so kind and working so strongly with us. I want to thank my family, who will get to see me again starting tonight. Mr. President, colleagues, in all seriousness, thank you all so very much. I've appreciated you, and I've appreciated serving with you. God bless.
Chair recognizes Councilman Branch. Councilman Branch.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me reflect on yesteryear at the age of 14, being reared by a single parent in East Baltimore, moving into the community. My mother was a single working mother, and as she worked on a day, well, I would find chores in the community, like cutting grass or painting and doing things in order to raise money in order to help her out by assisting in buying my school clothes and stuff like that. I met a family in East Baltimore by the name of the Tollers. And I would go to her house, and she would allow me to paint her basement and clean up her yard and do other things, chores around the house, who she introduced me to her sister, Edith. Well, Miss Lillian Toller and Edith Burns, as I'm leading on to say, well, Edith Burns was the wife of Clarence Duburns. And as a young kid, I would go to his house, and I would sit down while he was eating breakfast, and she would get him prepared to come down to City Hall, and I would go up there in the morning and talk to him, and folks said, well, why are you hanging around there? Well, he was one of the most exciting professionals in the community at that time, and I wanted to talk to him and learn as much as I could from him. He was city councilman at that time. He went on to become the first black mayor of the city. And I'm honored to say that I'm so proud to be able to walk in his shoes from someone that's in the community. The second thing, I want to thank my staff, Ms. Burley, Kevin Parson, Ann Schmidt, John Bazemore, all those who worked closely with me, because in my office, we didn't look at things as, they would say, a good product. I once heard someone say that a good product need not to be advertised. So we'd go out in the street and we do what we have to do. And we reach people, we communicated, we talked with people. Sometimes hours and hours during the day. When I was hospitalized, I would even set up appointments where I'd had people come into my hospital room so we can try to work out problems and situations, because even though we're sick and we're down, those problems don't stop. And people need representation. And I was so glad to be there for them and to have a team of such. My third, I would like to thank my wife. She was my crutches. She helped me get around. She helped me do a whole lot of, she attended a lot of meetings. She would leave work and she'd reach out and she did community association meetings. So I understand that a woman's work is never done, and I want to thank her very much for that. And last of all, I'd like to thank my family, my brothers, my mother. My brother was very instrumental in me getting here. God knows, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, I've had the time of my life in these 9 years working with this body, with these departments. If anyone took anything personal that I said, it wasn't, it was fighting for my constituents. And I know that the next generation that comes after me will take care of that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Welch.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hate being last. Everybody's hungry. They want to get to the food. They get restless. But be that as it may, Nick, I'm going to follow up on your mom whispering in your ear. Well, my mother took me by the ear. And after serving 28 years as a councilmatic technician and seeing exactly what a council person does and how they do it and the amount of sacrifice and commitment that they have to have. It wasn't an easy decision to walk into those shoes. Those shoes are enormous. And when you have to face, as not as a support person, but as the actual person doing the work and interfacing with community leaders and communities, it's a whole different ballgame. Because the weight is on you, not on that person who you support. And my mom's here with me today, Agnes Walsh, and I want you to stand, Mom. And I want to prove to the world that I am And I want to prove to the world that I am the tall one in the family. Thank you, Mom. And it's true that the success of a council person is not just their own striving to succeed, but it's the result of the support that they have around them. And I'm so proud of the staff that I have. I have two staff members with me. Shaquetta Wallace, who schedules me, writes, does everything, makes me look good every day that I look good. The days that I don't look good, I didn't have her. All right? And I have Arlene Fisher, who is a new addition to my staff, who has worked tirelessly in the community as a volunteer for so many years. And I just had to bring her on as a part of my staff, not because of how she worked, but how much she contributed to the community selflessly, and her historical knowledge base of how those communities became what they became, and her progress in making those communities become something quite different than what they actually were. The people who make city council successful, and I think all of us have said it, are the people who sit right up in the front of this room, and to support people who from the various agencies sit there. And Bobby, I'm going to mirror on your comment. Andy Smullian, you do what you say you're going to do. If you say it's going to happen, it happens. If you say it ain't going to happen, guess what? It ain't going to happen. And you've been honest and a true friend, and I thank you for both in our relationship. Thank you again. I don't have a lot to say. I want to get to the same food everybody else wants to get to, but I've seen the council grow in terms of its ability to move communities forward, and I've seen our president grow as well as his office grow in the ability to move our neighborhoods and our city forward. It is a wonderful group of people, the city council, and I think people need to realize the sacrifice, the commitment, and the hard work that goes into it, and that the decisions are not easy decisions to make. Joan Pratt can tell you that, because she's a controller of Baltimore City, and she has to make very hard decisions. So I look forward to the new life. I'm going to use a Norman Lear quote: over, next. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't mean to interrupt the mood of the evening, but I rise with somber news to let everyone under my voice know that since we last met as a council, we have had 28 homicides, and as of a few hours ago, I had a total of 296 for this year. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Spector. And then I want to give Comptroller Pratt the opportunity to make some presentations.
Jack, I say ditto to all my colleagues and their good comments and the kudos that they've sent to all that make us, that work for us, and we get all the credit. But everybody knows every woman deserves an Oscar, and Oscar's here, and I want to acknowledge Oscar. And my firstborn son, Bruce, is here representing my family, the light of my life, and two of my friends representing my friends that I love dearly, Sue and Beverly. Thank you for being with me and always being with me. Thank you.
Madam Controller. Ladies and gentlemen, the Controller of the City of Baltimore, Joan Pratt.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the entire City Council for their support of the Comptroller's Office. But Councilman Stokes, this is better than a rebate check, because these are notes of how I feel about the councilmen who are no longer serving. I just want to thank you for your support, your commitment of the Comptroller's Office, and I just want to wish you well on your new journey, and I believe that you will continue to be of service to the citizens of Baltimore, and you will be a great resource. So I just want to thank you for all your years of service. Thank you.
Okay, Chair recognizes Council Vice President Reisinger. And we're going to ask everyone to please come to the back for a reception. We have some drinks and some food. If Kiefer Mitchell haven't eaten it all. Before Council Vice President Reisinger closes out, I'd like to recognize Kiefer Mitchell, former Councilman Nick Diadamo, and Councilwoman Agnes Welch, and former Attorney General Kern, and is Max still here? Oh, he left. And Max Kern, who served on the Public Service Commission. Council Vice President Reisinger.
Yes. Mr. President, the City Council adjourned sine die, and I ask for a moment of silence for the 296 homicide victims in the city of Baltimore, and also for Pearl D. Johnson.
Thank you. There have been no further business. This concludes the 129th meeting of the 71st term of the Baltimore City Council. And to all the council members, former council members, you know that my office is always open to you. You don't need no invite. You can come and see me whenever you want. Just make sure you call to make sure I don't have no meetings. But you're welcome. Once a part of the family, you're always a part of the family as long as I'm president. Thank you. Good night.